You know, when it came to this week's comic books, I had a lot of fun with some of the ones I read so far, but there was this one book that I just could not stand. Find out on this week's episode of After the Poll. Hey, all my webheads out there, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, I am your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy, and today, guys, I'm bringing you another episode of After the Poll. That's right, guys, this is the video series where I take 6 of my comic books that I was highly anticipating, and I see if they live up to the hype, and if they are worth you guys possibly buying if you did not buy them yet. So guys, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you enjoy the show. And before we get started, if you want to help support Comic Book Corner 2.0 and become a member, guys, all you gotta do is just hit that join button right there on my home screen. Again, it helps supports the channel and it gives you, the viewers, some extra perks. So guys, let's dive into this week's episode with our first book. And the first book that I'll be discussing today is Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 30. This is celebrating 10 years of Miles Morales. Now, this book, you know, didn't have a really huge story attached to it, but it was just a fun read. It did remind me of how, you know, comics were back in a simpler day where you have kind of like one and done stories, and that's what this was. It was kind of a filler, just having fun with the character. What this book showcased was Miles Morales' new spider suit, right? Now, this spider suit is a little different. It seems like it's very loose fitting, and I don't feel like it's very aerodynamic for a spider character. Here you get to see it a little bit better on this first page. So I don't know if this suit is really going to work when you have a baggy top and, you know, he's got like 2 coverings. He's wearing a mask and then another covering over his mouth. It just seems like it's just not the best. But besides that, I thought that the main portion of this story was actually a lot of fun, as you got to see this character bought this Mandroid armor and is going after this taco truck, which I thought was absolutely hysterical. And it was just the character, again, being in New York City, just having fun, just, you know, helping people. He rescued a dog, and it was good. I liked it. It was just very lighthearted. You didn't take it seriously, and we're just getting ready for the next chapter in Miles Morales' stories. And you wind up seeing him having a meetup with his new girlfriend, Starling, which is, what, the Vulture's granddaughter? I think that's what it was. So that's basically the story in this. Again, it was just filler, celebrating the character, checking out his new threads. And if you're interested, there's a couple of backup stories in there too. I skimmed through those. I just wanted to read the main story. But again, if you're a Miles Morales fan, this is something that you might want to check out. And maybe it's a minor key because of the new threads. So the next book that was on my highly anticipated list that I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys on was Deathstroke Incorporated issue 1. Now, this book had me very intrigued with, you know, the team up of Black Canary and Deathstroke. I'm like, why are these guys going to work together? So first off, let's take a look at the artwork here. It's not like my favorite artwork, but it does work. I just feel like the characters are just very, I don't know, they're just like, there's too many inks in them. They seem like they're smushed together or something. But there's certain times where it was okay, and other times where it was actually kind of creepy, where, you know, you get to see Black Canary and Slade working to stop the Hive. And this was a pretty interesting page here as well. It was just kind of creepy. So at times it was okay. It worked. It's not the worst art that I've seen. But I've definitely seen better with these particular characters in here. So what was this story about? What made it interesting story? Well, we get to see Slade and Black Canary recruited from this company called Trust, and they're basically going to try to save the world. But if they don't comply and they become villains or bad guys or whatever the case may be, then what happens is that they'll get the heroes to go out and put them in jail anyway. But their whole thing is to have all the heroes join Trust and to save the world, right? So right away, we wind up recruiting Slade and Black Canary to go after Hive. And you get to see him thrusted into this adventure together. And they also recruited Toyman 2.0 also. And that's what this book was really about, them going on their first mission. And Black Canary and Slade wind up going to each other. And they ask each other, you know, why did you join this group? And the main reason why Slade joined in this group is he's like, I'm done being an anti-hero. I'm done being a bad guy. And the thing that I want to do is for my family. And I want to walk the straight line. That's what I want to do. And so you got the answer from Slade, but you never got the true answer there from Black Canary on why she really joined the team. There's something else going on there. So it was a kind of cool introductory issue when it comes to this book, and we'll see what Black Canary's motive is, and if there's some kind of other motive when it comes to Slade being part of Trust as well. The upcoming issues look like they're a lot of fun, as maybe they get to go in and do some other missions, which was kind of neat to see. Like they go in space, and one's like in a haunted house, and they're coming across Robin. So again, could be some fun future issues. So had a good time with it. Definitely recommend this book. All right, guys. So the next book we're going to be talking about is a book from Titan Comics. And this one is called Gun Honey. This is issue 1. Now, when I first saw this book, I looked at the exquisite covers on here and I was like, wow. And so right away, that definitely captured my attention. And I wanted to see what this book was about. And this is about a sexy sexy Korean woman who is a gun supplier. And the government goes and tries to recruit her. And she basically works on her own. And in this issue, you wind up actually getting kind of an origin story of where she came from, how her dad taught her how to handle guns, and basically in this issue, that's what you see. You get to see her go on a quick little mission in the beginning of the book, and you get to see a quick mission at the end of the book on how it kind of goes wrong. And the female's name is called Joanna Tan. Now, the artwork in this book is gorgeous. Okay, so I mean, that's what you open up to in this book, and it's made for her to be this very sexy character, sexy artwork all the way through. No matter what she does in there, you're just looking at it and you're just like jaw dropped going, oh wow, like she's always wearing these low-cut shirts. So this is definitely geared to the male audience here. And there wasn't a ton of story. You just, again, got some origin story of her and, you know, an offer to work for the government. But it wasn't bad. I'm not saying that it was just, you know, all sexy art and that's all it was. It wasn't just an overly complex plot, right? So it was easy to follow. And by the time you get to the end of the issue, you wind up finding out how her mission goes wrong and what is she going to do next. So I definitely want to check out the next issue to see where the story goes. And if you're a cover person and you like covers, I mean, there are a ton of them when it comes to this comic book. And issue number 2 is coming out in October of 2021. So if you can find this on the racks, I would say pick it up just because it's a new number 1. It's a new series, and you might like the cover art and the interior art too. Okay, so the next book that we're going to be talking about is not the book maybe that you're thinking. This was my least favorite book out of the 6 books that I read so far this week, and this was actually Inferno issue 1. This book for me was such a huge chore to get through. This just seemed like everything that Hickman wanted to tell, his entire story that he wanted to tell, was like in this book. He's trying to wrap everything up in this Inferno series, right? And it was just like information overload. It just dumped everything on you, and you're going to have to probably go back and read all his stuff that he wrote previously to remember everything that was going on. It had to do with Orcus, and it had to do with McTaggart, and it had to do with just those old ladies, and it had to do with Destiny and Emma Frost, and just all kinds of crazy things. Now, the one thing that this book did have going for it was that Hawks and Pox original art feel. It looked great. I mean, it was so stunning to look at this book, and the way it opened up with our X-Men doing battle against Nimrod. And I was like, oh wow, I'm like, here we go. This book is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And once we got through that initial battle with Nimrod, and we're finding out how the mutants, every time they do battle against Nimrod and keep trying and trying and they fail, that Nimrod is going to be inevitable, that it's going to happen. Once we got past that, this story went south for me. I was like, oh boy, right after this. I was like, that was the introduction, and then we just get a whole, you know, plot thread of McTaggart and Mora, and then we just kept on going and going and going and going, and then we get how Cyclops retires as captain and Bishop becomes captain, and it was just all these different plot threads, all these stories that, you know, have accumulated throughout Hickman's run, and it just starts to all come here in this mini-series. And I just felt like I was overwhelmed. And by the time I got done with it, I was like, oh my God, I got a headache. I'm like, why is this so hard? But it literally is just information dump, information overload, just trying to catch you up. And I was honestly bored by the time I got to the end of it. Even by the time you wind up getting to the end, we wind up seeing the Quiet Council try to nominate the next person to take a seat in the council, and it winds up becoming Destiny. So, you know, or the vote is for Destiny to come, and that was kind of the cliffhanger. And even that, I was kind of like, that's okay for me, you know? Like, I don't know what to expect in the next issue, and am I going to read it? Yes, I actually am, because I want to see how Hickman finishes all this, but I did not expect this to be such an information overloaded type of issue. So if you have not read Hawks and Pox, or if you lost interest along the way and you want to save some money, I say go ahead and save the money. This is not a must read, or buy it when the trade actually comes out. Okay, guys, so this book has a potential of being my comic book pick of the week, but I still got other books to read. But I read Something is Killing the Children, issue 20. This is the continuation of Erica Slaughter's origin story, how she becomes Erica Slaughter, right? And this book was so well done. This really gives you the more of an origin tale of not just Erica Slaughter, but the house itself, right? And I thought it was so well done. Artwork in this book is so good, right? There were some good character emotions in this book when it came to you know, Jessica crying and seeing if Erica was going to survive this. And I really like this book. It's so good, and I love the colors. It's wonderful drawn, man. And just, again, that introduction to that, you know, to the story itself is always a lot of fun. But what made this book so good was not just the initiation of Erica Slaughter on how she survived, you know, her monster killing her parents and not giving into that fear, but it was also, again, an origin tale of the house itself, what all the bandanas meant. So, like, you got to learn about how the red bandanas meant something, and the blue bandanas meant something, and then the rare green bandanas and the black bandanas, and you found out that Erica Slaughter is a black bandana. She's the one that goes out on the field by herself and destroys the monsters on her own. We get the white bandanas, who is a team unit who goes together and defeats the monsters, who think they're the big shit because they defeat the biggest monsters, right? And then you get the green bandana people, which are the dragon hunters, and there's only like 2 of them in existence. So learning about all that stuff in the house in itself was so interesting, and that really adds depth to not only the character of Erica Slaughter and why she's a black bandana, but the house itself. And that's what made this book, again, so phenomenal. Then we learn about the dragon himself, like the wise man of the house, and what Erica Slaughter is, you know, and why she defeated maybe that monster to begin with. It was so well written. This is a book that's on top of its game right now. And if you are not reading Something is Killing the Children, that's okay. Go out there, buy the trades of this. You'll be caught up. I'm telling you, you're going to like this book, guys. Okay, and here it is, the finale of The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 74. We got 74 issues of Nick Spencer's run, maybe more due to tie-ins of events and stuff like this. Legacy numbering 875. This book was $10. The conclusion to Kindred. Was it worth it? No. Not at all. Now, was it the worst issue of Amazing Spider-Man I've ever read in my life? No. It was very action-heavy. I liked the action for what it was. But the story itself did not need to be 80 pages, and it did not need to be a $10 comic book, okay? And what did this book accomplish by the time we got to the end of it? I thought, as convoluted as the last issue was, issue 73, I thought that that book was a better issue because we got all this, the revelation of everything, what it retconned, right? And this book was just this big fight with two Kindreds, not one but two, because you got Norman Osborn's clone kids being Kindred, and what happens is they wind up losing. Mephisto was the one in control of them, and when they failed, at the end of the day, he relinquished his control, they aged up, and they died, right? And what did we get? We wound up getting the love of Mary Jane and Peter Parker, how their love is pure and it's true, and then we wound up getting the release of Harry Osborn's soul. And that's what we got in this comic book. Now, it did retcon that Sins Past storyline, but it didn't really retcon One More Day, right? It did not do that, or Brand New Day, or whatever it is, right? Because they're not married. They have love for each other, but they're not married, okay? And they did not get married. And a lot of people were speculating that maybe they would get married in this issue. And Peter Parker is fine. Like, he had a building fall on top of him in this issue, and he was absolutely fine. Like, Mary Jane just moves rubble around, and she's like, come on, Peter, let's go. The injuries are not that bad to the point where he needs to go in a hospital. That's why I can't see that in issue, I don't know what issue it is, 76, where they show him on the cover right here in the hospital. He wasn't like that by the time we wound up getting to the end of the issue. So why are they showing that on the cover? Maybe something else happens in the next issue where it talks about Ben, and maybe something happens to Peter. Maybe he suffers some trauma. I don't know. But it didn't answer any of those questions. It just kept on reiterating what had already happened. So I was really disappointed. And this is how Nick Spencer's run as a whole has actually been. It's been this long, drawn-out story of Kindred. And again, it did not address some of the things that we've been waiting to find out if it would happen by the time we got to the conclusion of this. So even though it was a cool kind of fight and battle, I thought it was a little bit lackluster, and it didn't need to be as long as it did. And there was way too many artists in it. Mark Bagley wasn't the artist on here all the way through. And it was just, I don't know, it was just okay. It was a little bit touching to see Harry Osborn die again in this book, I guess, you know. But at the end of the day, what was this book and what did it accomplish? I'll let you guys leave that in the comments below when it comes to Amazing Spider-Man. You know, again, what'd you think of this issue overall? Would I recommend it? Of course, it's the end of a run. You're going to want to read it to see what it's about. But I just don't think it was worth that $10 price tag. Alright guys, so there you have it. There are the books that I read so far this week. Those are my thoughts on the ones to buy or not to buy. And guys, I want to know in the comments which books you read so far and which one was your favorite. And if you have any recommendations for me, again, just go ahead and leave it in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, don't forget to hit that bell. And of course, guys, I'll leave you more content right here to check out, including my latest comic book haul. And until next time, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, and most importantly, keep reading those comic books. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.